I can't actually tell if the lighting in this is good. I would open my curtains back there, but the shutters are closed, and there's a big spider in the shutters, and I'm afraid of it. So this is the lighting you get. I am going to be reading Frankenstein for the first time. Maybe I should hold it over here. Yeah, I've never read Frankenstein before. I think it's a very, straightforward story that you kind of hear about just by being a person, at least in, Western society, or this part of the US that I come from. Even if you don't know how it ends, you know the guy put a whole bunch of body parts together and zapped him with lightning and made a guy. In this edition, which I took from my school's free bookshelf, there's 5 million pages of author's notes and another a preface, 5 million prefaces before you get to the actual story. But I'm about 60 pages in so far, and I'm really enjoying it, actually. Maybe because I always sort of put vampires and the Frankenstein monster together in my mind. I was expecting it to be an epistolary novel all the way through, like Dracula was, which I didn't finish because I'm not the biggest fan of epistolary as a storytelling device. Yeah, when I saw letter 1 on this fucking first page, but yeah, we start out with a letter from some fucking guy. Do we ever say his name? I think we do. Walton writes a letter to his sister in 17 year of some kind. He's like, I love sailing. Sailing is so much fun. I love to sail. I'm finding a crew of people because I want to sail to the Arctic. Walton and his crew are in the Antarctic place, and they see a guy out on the ice, and he's in a sled, a dog sled. He's got a dog sled. He's out in the ice. They're like, what the fuck is this guy doing out here? And he will only get onto the boat, onto Walton's ship, when he's like, where are you guys going? And then when they're like, we're going to the North Pole. And then he's like, yeah, all right, I'll get on your ship. And this guy's almost frozen to death. He's super cold, but most of all, he just looks sad. He's got sad puppy boy eyes, apparently. His eyes have generally an expression of wildness and even madness, but there are moments when, if anyone performs an act of kindness towards him, or does him the most trifling service, his whole countenance is lighted up, as it were, with a beam of benevolence and sweetness that I never saw equaled. But he is generally melancholy and despairing, and sometimes he gnashes his teeth. Yeah, so he's just kind of sad, he's polite, whatever. And we will come to learn that this is Victor Frankenstein. And Walton, we get a little bit of character from Walton, and that character so far has been, I'm sad, nobody love me, sort of energy. He's like, I don't have any friends. He sees Victor and gets this overwhelming sense that they would work well together, that they would be friendly. Maybe I'm just gay and projecting, but it kind of had a little bit of homoerotic subtext to me. Do with that what you will. I don't know how exactly it comes to be, but Walton notices that Victor's kind of being edgy and sad about the whole situation, and they come to some sort of agreement that Victor is going to tell Walton the story of how he ended up on the ice. This is still in letter form to his sister, and Walton decides that he is going to write down Frankenstein's story to send it to his sister. He says, I have resolved every night, when I am not imperatively occupied by my duties, to record as nearly as possible to his own words what he has related during the day. This manuscript will doubtless afford you the greatest pleasure. Even now, as I commence my task, his full-toned voice swells in my ears. His lustrous eyes dwell on me with all their melancholy sweetness. I see his thin hand raised in animation, while the lineaments of his face are irradiated by the soul within. Strange and harrowing must be his story, frightful the storm which embraced the gallant vessel on its course, and wrecked it thus. Yeah, I mean, he's very... I understand that this is sort of we're supposed to suspend our disbelief about the letter writing a little bit, because nobody notes these things on another person's face when they're writing a letter. But when you're looking at it, and this guy is writing to his sister, wow, his eyes are so vibrant and alive, and he notices all of these little mannerisms that this guy has, other than it being a suspension of disbelief from the form of the letter. It could also just be the time in which this was written it was finished in 1817. It could just be that, and everything was much more wordy then. But you can see how me right now, the dirty little queer that I am, would be like, you've got a little bit of homosexuality going on, you know? Yeah, that's what I was sort of getting. But after this, Walton guy decides that he's going to write down Frankenstein's story. He does that, and so I've gotten about 5 chapters into the actual story part, which is about 60 pages. So far, it's just been like, I grew up, and I was really happy as a kid, which Victor talks about how his parents loved each other so much, and they just, like, care about one another, apparently. They get married, blah, 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 have a kid. It's Victor. Are we surprised? Who could have guessed that it was Victor, the child of these people who I kept referring to as his parents? Victor says, much as they were attached to each other, they seemed to draw inexhaustible stores of affection from a very mine of love to bestow upon me. My mother's tender caresses and my father's smile of benevolent pleasure while regarding me are my first recollections. We get, like, multiple pages of him just talking about how good his childhood was. And then his mom decides that she wants a daughter. And since she comes from poverty, she often goes to, like, the houses of the poor and, like, helps out. She's a very nice lady. We don't get a lot on that, but she very explicitly goes into the house of a poor person and, like, sets eyes upon this child. The 4 others were dark-haired, hardy little vagrants. This child was thin and fair. Her hair was the brightest living gold. Yeah, so it's like we've got 4 dark-haired children and this one blonde kid, and the mother is immediately like, a blonde kid? She was not her child, but the daughter of a Milanese nobleman. Her mother was German and had died on giving birth. So it's just like, yeah, we inherited this, like, blonde kid from someone else, and Victor's mother, Mrs. Frankenstein, I guess, is like, I want that baby. Actually, there's no explicit communication of how Victor's mother acquired this child, but it's just like the father shows up and there's this new kid in their house. So I'm assuming, like, money changed hands, which, I mean, but it is so weird that this woman just walks into their house and is like, that blonde kid? I'll buy her from you, actually. Really weird. I don't understand why it couldn't have been, like, an orphanage, maybe? I mean, that would have made sense if the lady went to an orphanage and found some child, which is a little strange to me. Anyway, long tangent aside, this blonde kid becomes the sister of Victor Frankenstein, and she's named Elizabeth. She's very, like, demure and, whatever. It seems like they get along fine, but the way that they are introduced to one another, Victor and Elizabeth, is a little bit strange. The mother says, I have a pretty present for my Victor. Tomorrow he shall have it. And when on the morrow she presented Elizabeth to me as her promised gift, I, with childish seriousness, interpreted her words literally, and looked upon Elizabeth as mine to protect, love, and cherish. Now we called each other we called each other by the name of cousin. No word which expression could body forth the kind of relation in which she stood to me, mine more than sister, since till death she was to be mine only. That's a little possessive and strange. Like, I can understand how this kid became mad scientist, bringing people back to life. But other than that, in the pages I've read so far, it's been Victor goes to university and he reads about, like, chemistry and natural philosophy, which I should probably look into some more. And he gets dunked on by one of his professors who's like, the philosophers that you've been reading are shit, dude. You gotta start over. You have to start your entire academic career from the beginning. And then the other professor, it seems like he only has 2, is the chemistry professor, and he seems relatively normal, and he's like, yeah, do a little bit of everything, it's fine. So he goes through college and suddenly gets, like, this idea that he should bring something back from the dead based on the work of these other philosophers who talk a lot about, like, the elixir of life or the philosopher's stone that brings people back to life, allegedly. And yeah, that's sort of where I am. I'm going on a trip, so you might see me reading, like, on a beach somewhere, because I'm going to Spain. I probably should have gone to Germany, since that's where Mary Shelley apparently got the inspiration for this book. The, like, origin story of Frankenstein, it's a bit like nobody can exactly tell, but I read the Wikipedia article and it seemed pretty straightforward. So I'm going to talk about the author a little bit. Don't mind me looking at my notes while I'm over here, but I'm going to try my best to not make it sound like I'm reading from a script, even though it's not a script, I just kind of have bullet points. So Mary Shelley was born in August of 1797. I don't know why I decided to write that down. I just feel like everyone starts the talk about authors with when they were born, but in 1815, Mary Shelley went to Germany. She went to Stein? I'll put the name here so I don't butcher the ever-living fuck out of this name. In 1815, Mary Shelley went to Germany, and it was the same town where this fucking guy, his name is Johann Conrad Dippel, did experiments in this place called Frankenstein Castle. I'm assuming that that's probably where the idea came from, but Frankenstein is apparently a very common name to some extent, like, because the Franks was a group of people, and Stein just kind of meant rock, so when they named the castle that, it was just like, the Franks' rock house. That's what it is. Even though the name is relatively, like, common-ish, the experiments that this guy did in this castle are crazy. And I know I say, like, crazy and insane and wild a lot, but I guess I didn't really understand what the 1800s, what they were fucking up to. I guess I don't think about it very often, but this guy, Johann Dippel, allegedly, did experiments on cadavers in Frankenstein Castle, where he was trying to, like, siphon the soul of one cadaver to another, and apparently this was, like, a super common experiment for people to do at this time, for alchemists to do at this time. So, yeah, the 1800s are fucking crazy, and good for them, I guess. He allegedly did the experiments with the human bodies, but he definitely, admittedly, dissected animal carcasses a lot. So, beyond that, he wrote something called Maladies and Remedies of the Life of the Flesh. I feel like he could have admitted the life part, but, I mean, I don't know. I didn't actually read it. I read the title on the Wikipedia article. And in this article, or compendium, whatever it is, he said he discovered the elixir of life, and he also said that he could exorcise demons with a potion he made out of boiled animal parts, like bones and meat. He, like, boiled them, and he was like, yes, the demons will hate this. I'm pretty sure anyone would hate that, dude. If I had that potion in my face, I would do anything to get that away from me. So if I have to pretend that the demon has been exorcised to get this, like, meat potion away from me, I'll do it. And of course, in this paper thing, I should probably figure out what it's called, book, he said he could successfully transfer the soul of one corpse to another with a funnel. He could just funnel the soul out of one guy into another guy. Of course. Yeah. But this isn't even Mary Shelley. I mean, like, there's speculation that in 1815, when she was in this area of Germany, she, like, encountered people at the university that this guy Dippel went to, and they sort of, like, talk shit about him. And in her journal, she wrote that she wanted to go back to this place to be more acquainted with the mythology and lore of this place. So there's this thought that she had heard of this, and that's why she sort of came up with the idea of Frankenstein. But it's not, as far as I know, there's no, like, explicit note-taking that she did about this guy. In 1816, which is the year after she went to this place in Germany, her future husband, Lord Byron, and Lord Byron's physicist? No. And Lord Byron's guy, Polidori, they decided to have a short story contest. And so they were like, let's write a ghost story. From this little contest, Mary Shelley came up with the idea of Frankenstein, and she started writing Frankenstein. She started writing Frankenstein in June of 1816, and she finished it in May of the next year, in May of 1817. And so that's sort of how Frankenstein was born. As a story, not as the monster that this guy is gonna make. But yeah, I'll probably come back, see you again, when I've finished volume 1, give it a little review then, and see how it goes. I did lie a little bit when I said that I would come back when I had finished volume 1. I have finished volume 2 now. It took a while because I was out of the country and now school has started and I feel like I'm going insane. But I did finish volume 2, and I'm not sure if I was like thinking about something else or somebody had like drugged me when I was reading volume 1, because I totally missed the fact that Elizabeth and Victor are engaged or betrothed because it's the dying wish of his slash their mother. That's not very sibling cousin like, you know? So I have come to the conclusion that either Victor's mother thought that Victor had absolutely no game, or she realized that he was definitely queer. It's probably a combination of the two, let's be honest. In the rest of Volume 1, we have the actual creation of the creature. The thing that I know about the story happened, and it was like one paragraph, and it was very underwhelming. I guess more familiar media to me has the like, it's alive thing. It's like a whole dramatic scene, but no, in the book it's just like, yeah, made the guy, he's here now, and then it's much more focused on like Victor being like, no, he's so ugly. Why did I make a guy that's ugly? Literally running away from him, which I thought was very funny. Dude, you've looked at this thing for how long? And now, just now, you're realizing it's too ugly to be around? But yeah, he runs away, leaves the creature just like in his apartment, and Victor runs into his like childhood best friend, Henry. To be honest, I think the like queer no game accusations come in with Henry because he's like very sensitive and takes care of Victor. Victor is so sleep deprived and horrified about the guy being ugly that he's like made himself sick to some extent, and Henry is like, oh, you poor thing, let me take care of you, which is very sweet. Like, homosexual or not, it's very kind that he has a friend that will take care of him. And apparently Henry is going to the same school that Victor's going to. He managed to convince his father that education is not a waste of time, so now they go to the same school. After a while, Elizabeth, his sister cousin wife, fiance, writes basically just like, here's the gossip from town, and also we miss you. Sometime after that, unfortunately, Victor's father writes, and he's like, hey, your brother is dead, and your sister cousin wife fiance needs to be comforted because she's like having a breakdown. I mean, understandable. But yeah, we get this long sort of montage sequence of Victor going through nature and the woods and the lake and like rain and stuff. When Victor arrives, he gets there like really early in the morning and goes and like hangs out in the library. But then his other brother, the one that's alive, Ernest, comes and says, yeah, we know who did it. It's Justine, this like servant that they've had for a while. And Victor goes, no, the fuck it wasn't. It was someone else. And refuses to say who he thinks it is. It's not like a big like point of him refusing, but he in his heart knows that it's the creature. The creature found his brother and killed him. I think he might have vaguely seen like a big guy on his way to his family home, so he's under the impression that there's no one else who could be that big, but he doesn't tell anyone that he has reanimated the dead, pretty much, and we just have a little trial sequence. The reason people think it's Justine is because she had the photo of William's mother that William was carrying with him. And, like, that's it. She was just out at night. No one had, like, seen her. And she had this photo. And I was just like, that's not much evidence. But in ye old Frankenstein times, I guess it's who else would it fucking be, right? So Justine decides that she's gonna admit to the crime that she didn't commit. And she gets fucking sentenced to death. And she just dies. We have Elizabeth and Victor just being super fucking depressed because this person, who they both believe to be innocent, just fucking died. First William, then Justine. Who's next? Basically, they both feel super guilty because Elizabeth feels like she sent William out to die, and Victor feels guilty because he's the guy who made the person that killed his brother. A lot of guilt, a lot of sadness on top of normal, like, grieving of the death of these people that they knew. Here is where we get to volume 2, the actual new part. We start with more sadness, more grieving. And because Victor is so sad, he decides to go outside. He just spends all of his time outside. I don't know if, like, school is out or what, or if he's just skipping class. But while he's wandering around in the mountains, appreciating nature, can we tell that this novel has a theme of nature good? While he's out in the good nature, he runs into the creature, or the creature finds him. The creature found him. He's like, I'm gonna do a monologue now. And Victor's like, oh, what the fuck? And the creature's like, shut the fuck up, I'm doing my monologue. The creature recounts his entire life. Woke up in this strange place, and no one was there. I went outside, and people were scared of me, so I went into the woods. And I was alone, and nobody cared me, because I'm so ugly. The way that Victor described making him, I guess he was just kind of big, and decomposing body parts, I guess, do have a tendency to, like, get a little deformed. Surely they have seen people, like, disfigured by fire or plague or whatever else was happening in the 1800s. But no, the creature is too ugly. So he goes to the woods, learns to be a person with nature. There's more nature. Have you figured out that nature is good yet? He figures out how to be a person. He, like, eats berries and nuts and stuff. After a while of basically just wandering through the woods, he's just like his dad. They both love to wander through the woods. After a while, the creature, like, finds this house kind of by itself. It's not in a village, it's sort of away. He's less afraid of being seen because there are a grand total of 3 people on this little farm thing, and one of them's blind. They have a shed, so the creature goes and stays in their shed, just, like, watches these people and forms a parasocial relationship with them, which I found, like, oddly modern, I guess. The watching these people live their lives. They have no idea who he is, and he's just, like, so desperate to be loved by them. He remarks on, like, small things that they do. He's, like, infatuated with this family, pretty much, because it's something that he didn't have. He was just kind of thrown out into the world by himself, so the idea of family and other people around and, like, loving one another is strange and weird and intriguing to him, and he wants that. He wants to be loved. That's pretty much the creature's whole thing, which is kind of interesting for, like, a villain or an antagonist sort of character. But while he's sort of watching this family and living in their shed, he does little things to help them out, like he'll go get firewood for them in the middle of the night so they have less to worry about, which is very kind. Another person comes, her name is Safi. It's spelled Safie. We're just gonna go with Safi, who is apparently Felix's lover, betrothed type thing. Somehow the creature figures out that Safi is the daughter of a guy who got imprisoned, and then Felix broke him out of prison, and Felix and his daughter were like, wow, you're pretty nice, and the guy decided that, oh, as reward for breaking me out of prison, you can be with my daughter. This doesn't really matter to Frankenstein and the creature, I don't think, but it's backstory for this family. And the creature is more, becomes more attached to them by learning all of the hard things that they've gone through. But since Safi is Arabian, Turkish, not exactly sure, she doesn't speak a lot of the same language. So while they're teaching Safi, the creature is also, like, next to the window, listening in, and therefore, like, learning English through all of the books and things that they're reading to her. They have Safi and the 2 children and the blind old man are just, like, living a normal life. They don't know that this horrible, ugly thing is outside in their fucking garden. Apparently they don't go into the shed, like, at all. They have this building on their property that they just don't touch because little big deformed guy is in there. But after a while, the creature is like, I need to, like, be loved by these people. I want to believe that after all that I've seen them do, and, like, their character and whatever, these people will not be afraid of me. He's put so much pressure on, like, these people being different that he waits until the son and the daughter and the Safi leave, and it's just the blind old man in the house. Since he knows that this family won't turn away travelers and things like that, he goes into the house where the blind old man is. And he's like, I just need to warm myself by the fire, sir. I don't need food or anything. And so they just kind of sit next to each other. The creature makes up this sort of, like, vaguely true tale of how he's, like, going to meet friends, and he's, like, kind of being normal about it. Like, he's playing it cool. I don't know what happens. He just, like, snaps and he's like, it's you! Your family are the friends that I'm looking for, and I love you so much, and you have to be bestest friends with me. And he, like, physically grabs on to the old man. Please love me. Please love me. And that's when everybody else comes home. And so they just see this giant guy on their father, or their father-in-law, the old guy, and they're like, get out. So they kick him out, and they're so horrified by him that they literally move. They, like, pack up all their shit and they leave. And thus starts the incel arc of the creature. He's so fucking pissed that this family, they don't give a shit about him at all, because obviously they don't know this guy. Even if this was the most beautiful man that you've ever seen, he has still been squatting on your property, listening into all of your conversations, and feels entitled to your attention and your love. He feels entitled to a relationship with you because he's been stalking you. I can understand why these people are like, fuck no, we're getting out of here. So they leave. Frankenstein creature is so distraught that he becomes an incel. So the creature goes back out into the woods. Nature. He's very depressed, but he's also so mad at the entirety of humanity that he's decided that he's going to just, like, kill anything that comes in his way, because if they don't love me, I kill them. He remembers that Frankenstein was from Geneva, so he just kind of vaguely goes in the direction of Geneva because now he's determined to kill Frankenstein, or, like, make his life hell, or whatever. On his way to Geneva, he finds William, the younger brother. They get into sort of like a scuffle, and even though the creature doesn't exactly know that William is Frankenstein's brother, he goes, I'll tell my dad, Mr. Frankenstein. And the creature goes, what? Who's your dad? Oh, I'm gonna kill you because you're related to that guy I don't like. So he kills William. He takes the picture of Frankenstein's mother out of William's pocket, off of his neck. I think it's on a chain, but I'm not exactly sure. And then he's like, wow, pretty lady in picture. And then he's like, no, I hate pretty ladies because they're human and they hate me, so I'm gonna hate them. And somehow he finds Justine sleeping in a barn and decides to give the portrait of William's mother to her. Like, he plants it on her. He frames her, essentially. And thus leads to the death of Justine. And so Creature's monologue is done. Creature's like, and that's why you need to make me a girlfriend. Make me a female. Obviously, that has, like, different connotations now than it did then. Victor is like, absolutely the fuck not. You killed my brother. You got my servant sentenced to death. Why the fuck would I do that for you? And the creature's like, please, I promise I'll never be violent again. I'll go away. I'll go to the savage lands of South America and get away from you, and you will never see me again. And so after a little bit of back and forth, Victor's like, yeah, okay, I guess. I'm gonna be really fucking depressed about it though the whole time. But as long as you leave and you go away and you don't hurt anyone else, you are not a violent creature, I will make you a girlfriend. And that's sort of where we are now, at the end of Volume 2. And I can only assume that with a good third of this book left, it's not gonna be smooth sailing. Let's help the creature get tickets to boat to South America. I'll see you at the end of Volume 3.
One eternity later.
It's been a while since I filmed my last section of this video, things have happened. I did finish the book, Frankenstein, but I am in a new apartment because I had bed bugs. But yeah, I got bed bugs, and then I had to move apartments because the bed bugs were not just from me, they came from my neighbor. And the other day, I got a text from my old landlord asking which extermination agency I used. So safe to say that moving out was a good idea because I think they're still there. Yeah, so this new place, very nice, but it comes with some caveats. I live right next to a school, so if you hear like screaming or children or like a jingle in the distance, that's the French class period change sound. Because of the whole bedbugs thing, it took me a while to actually get around to the last part of this book, but I did it. I did do it. I have my notes on my computer over here, so if I'm staring like this, that's why. I'm gonna be so honest, I don't remember what happened in volume 2. When I read this, I was like, okay, monster, killing people, Frankenstein. The monster wants Victor to make him a wife or a companion. And Victor's like, you know what, if you stop killing all my people, I'll do it. But before he does it on some fucking whack-ass island for some reason. Before he goes to his island to create the wife creature thing, he goes on a little, like, a romantic vacation romp with his very heterosexual friend, Henry. So they just kind of like have a vacation. I don't know why. I think it's to make us emotionally closer to Henry before the monster eventually gets him. Spoilers, by the way. After their little vacation, Victor, without Henry, goes to this island. He's very like, poor people here. So perfect place to like get a whole bunch of body parts and stuff to make woman. He's somewhere near the end of the process when he thinks about, oh my god, they could reproduce. There could be more little creatures running around. And so he decides that this is not a good idea. Instead of like, I don't know, taking out her reproductive organs, he decides that he's just not going to make the person at all. So he destroys the body. And of course, because the creature is a bit of a stalker, he sees it and he's like, oh, no, you were not supposed to do that. I find it really interesting that the idea of birth was the thing that made Frankenstein want to stop building this creature. I feel like there's some stuff in Mary Shelley's life that sort of, I wouldn't say parallel it, but she had a miscarriage. So I wonder if that had any influence in this. There's also like the idea of fatherhood with Victor being the father of the creature and abandoning it. I feel like in my last video section, I kind of had I was a little bitter about the creature, and I think the time between reading the second section and the third section helped me kind of think about that a little bit more. I kind of was like, oh, he's a bit of an incel, which I mean, yeah, I mean, if you look at it through that lens, he is, but also, this is like a 2-year-old, so I totally understand why this created person would be upset that nobody wants to be around it. I think the idea of like, I'm entitled to attention and love from these people, and also the fact that this is a child. I think these things can coexist, and I shouldn't have been so harsh about it in my original reading of it. After the destruction of the corpse, the creature's like, I'm gonna be with you on your wedding day. And Victor, this fucking idiot, okay, so man, you can make a whole living person out of dead body parts and presumably do it again. But when the creature says, I'm gonna be with you on your wedding night, Victor's like, oh, that means he's gonna kill me and not the person I marry, which has been his MO the entire book. It's been, creature, I'm gonna kill everyone you ever love to make you fucking depressed and miserable and sad. Good going, Victor. And since Victor is on this island, I can't remember if he was like, I'm gonna go home, or I need to get the fuck away from here to like try and get away from the creature or the island or whatever. Clearly this guy's not the brightest of the bunch. He takes a little tiny boat and he just like goes into the ocean. And of course that doesn't go very well because there's like storms and shit, and he's like, there's water in my boat. But he ends up in Ireland. Somehow, through some shenanigans or another, of some kind or another, the creature has killed Henry and planted him in Ireland also. So people are like, oh, Victor Frankenstein, you fucking killed this guy. And of course, when Victor is like distraught and emotionally unwell because his heterosexual best friend is dead. I don't know if they're like, this is a performance or whatever, but they were like, oh, you're crying that much, buddy. All right. So the Irish put him in some sort of like jail prison situation. I think from what I read, it was like just him in there, and the guy, the sort of like head of the town that he's ended up in, sort of takes pity on him a little bit. But Victor's there for like 2 months, and so he's like, I am so weak and depressed, and I'm emotionally unwell, so it takes a toll on his like physical being. After a while, the head of the town comes and is like, hey, when you showed up here, I went through your stuff. I found like letters to and from your father. So I sent him a letter, by the way. So he's here now. After 2 months, your father's finally arrived. Through this, I don't know if his father has something to do with it or just happened to be coincidental timing, but Victor goes to this other part of Ireland and like the court bit, and they are like, never mind, you didn't actually kill that guy. So you were just in prison for 2 months. Whoops, our bad. Victor goes free and goes home with his dad. And surprisingly, after all that's happened to him, he has trouble sleeping. So he takes laudanum every night, and then it's like, well, I've got these whack-ass nightmares. And I'm like, dude, I've never done laudanum, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gave you whack-ass nightmares. Combined with the whole, like, I would assume PTSD of, like, all of your friends dying, bringing a man creature back to life. It's not the ideal combination that would make for non-nightmare dreams, you know? Once Victor gets home, he's still in emotional distress, fucking obviously, and he tries to like tell his dad, like, it's me, I'm the reason they're dead, and his dad's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You didn't kill them, you're my son, whatever. And Victor, instead of like saying what happened, is just vague about it. Idiot Victor. And so they're home now, and he receives a letter from Elizabeth, his cousin, bride, creature, person thing. And she's like, hey, do you still want to marry me, by the way? Do you still want to marry me? I'm not sure. You seem kind of hesitant about it because you went on that whole vacation as like a before getting married thing, so I don't know if you have like another lover. Victor is like, well, I am going to get murdered on the day that I get married. I should probably get this over with. I'm pretty suicidal anyway. He writes back to Elizabeth, or he tells her in person. I think he meets her in person, and it's like, I love no one else. We can get married, but I have a secret that I'm going to tell you on our wedding night. Smash cut, wedding night. They get married. They are on their honeymoon, I assume. They'll go straight from wedding to the middle of the fucking woods. So they're like, wow, it's so beautiful in the mountains. And then they end up at the inn where they stay for the night. And Victor, idiot, it's like, I'm going to be the one that the creature murders. Because obviously there's no other way that this could go. See every other person that the creature is murdered. I don't get it, but okay. Victor's like, I don't want Elizabeth to be around me while I'm getting murdered, so I'm gonna go wander off into the woods for a while. So he goes, he's like near the inn still, and when he hears Elizabeth screaming, he's like, what? What could this possibly be? Surprise! He's killing the people you love, which he has been doing from the beginning. So, Elizabeth is dead. Womp womp. Who couldn't have seen this coming? Victor, apparently. Victor is in the inn with all these people who are like, what the fuck happened? And he sees the creature out the window. And Victor is like, gun time, and tries to shoot at him. But the creature literally is just like, no, actually, goodbye. And he jumps into the lake, and we don't see him for a while. And Victor at this point is like, I've actually got to use my human words and tell someone about this. So he goes to the magistrate of Geneva. I'm not sure if he's like, get me to the president, but he might go to like a close by political thing. Can you tell I'm super aware of 1800s politics? Yeah, me too. So Victor goes to the magistrate of Geneva, and he's like, hey buddy, here's what happened. He tells him the whole thing. And he's like, I need your help to kill this guy. Because he killed my wife, he killed my friend, he killed my brother and my servant lady who I was very fond of, family friend. And the magistrate is like, I really wish I could, dude, but if you shot at this guy and he didn't die, obviously, no matter what we give you, it won't be enough. He's huge and made up of dead body parts. We're not going to be able to do anything. Sorry. And they're right, but Victor is fucking pissed off. He's like, what the fuck do you mean? And so he's like, I'm gonna leave Geneva. Before leaving Geneva, decides to go past the graves of all of the people that the creature has killed in his family, like Justine, his brother, Elizabeth, Henry. I think Henry's buried there. I'm not sure. Don't fact check me on that. The creature, he's there somehow. He's still following Victor around. And when Victor does this whole, like, scream to the sky moment of, like, I'll avenge you, the creature's like, stupid. He laughs at him. He laughs at Victor. He's like, I'm satisfied. I love how miserable you are. Fucking L. I killed everyone you love. You suck. You're small. You're miserable. I win. And Victor's like, fuck you, actually. They have a little chase sequence. The creature stows away on the ship. Victor gets onto the same ship, and they go somewhere. I think they're in Russia. The creature is like crawling across the tundra or whatever. Not crawling, he walks like a normal person, but he's going through the tundra. He leaves little love notes for Victor of like, oh, follow me, I seek the everlasting ices of the north, or you will feel the misery of cold and frost to which I am impassive. Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna flex on you, I'm gonna call you a loser, I know you're still following me. Victor, he's like very underprepared. I don't think he was planning on going to Russia, so he's like, I'm cold, I don't have any food. At some point, both of them end up with dog sleds. So they're just like going across Russian ice cold place. Victor is like this close to giving up and just dying from the cold and not eating and not sleeping very much because he's just like so rage brained. I don't know if like the creature was familiar with the term rage bait in the 1800s, but he's pretty successfully rage baited Victor Frankenstein into following him across Russia. Victor Frankenstein is like, I'm gonna die. I'm definitely gonna die. I have to convince myself that when I'm awake it is actually a nightmare, so I can revel in my dreams of my dear friends and pretend that is true life, or whatever 1800 bullshit they say. The creature leaves one last note, which reads, prepare! Exclamation point. Your toils only begin. Wrap yourself in furs and provide food, for we shall soon enter upon a journey where your sufferings will satisfy my everlasting hatred. And this is like Victor's like second win, bro. I'm gonna get him. Victor sees some guy out on like the horizon line, and he's like, that's fucking him. That's him. I'm gonna get him. And so he's like, feed the dogs. Get him. And he goes. And eventually he like hits another town before they get to like the everlasting cold or whatever. It's Russia. There's fucking towns, places, I think. I've never been to Russia. And he hears like rumors, like gossip of this creature that came. He like stole food. He stole a gun. So now the fucking creature has a gun now. Victor has a gun. Creature has a gun. We're just like going cowboy duel style in Russia. From these like local people in this town, he hears that the creature has just like kind of set out in a direction where there's no land. It's just like straight ice. And so, hey guys, remember there's a framing narrative to this book of like Walton being stuck in the ice. I'm pretty sure we're near the end of the book. Creature out on the ice. Victor out on the ice after the creature. At some point, the creature just fucking disappears. He's like, I don't know where he is. I've got no clue. At this point, he finds Walton. He finds Walton's ship. Walton takes him. He's like, wow, you're so pretty. You have soulful eyes and whatever homoerotic bullshit. And so this is the point where we switch back to Walton's point of view, because this was all told in letters from Walton to his sister. Apparently, Victor has looked over the letters that he's written to his sister and changed a couple of things, like made things more correct. At one point, Walton is like, hey, how did you bring that guy back to life? You want to tell me? Victor's like, fuck no, why would you want to know that? We're never doing this again. At this point, it seems Victor has been on the ship for about a week, and everyone else on the ship, other than Victor and Walton, are getting real sick of just being in the middle of nowhere. This was supposed to be an expedition. The expedition kind of can't go anywhere when they're stuck in the ice. Their provisions are running low. Everyone is cold. Everyone is angry. Fuck you, we're gonna do a coup. Actually, I want off this ship. If the ice undoes, if the ice thaws enough for us to get out of here, Walton, you gotta fucking take us out of here. And Victor, because this is his business somehow, he knows so much about ships. Victor is like, I'm gonna give them a speech. And he's like, you follow your captain to the end. Commitment and huzzah. Apparently it gets them. And so they're like, yeah, whatever, okay. So they go back to being cold and doing nothing. But 2 days later, after Victor's speech, Walton is like, no, if this ice melts, we kind of gotta go home. I have my sister, she has kids, I want to see her again. And also, there's no ambition worth dying for. Hey, Victor, you could probably nudge, nudge, wink, wink, take a little something from that. The ice is sort of melting. They're trying to leave. Victor's like, let me off the ship, bro. I gotta go find the creature. I gotta go kill him. Walton is like, dude, you can't even stand up. Victor is like in and out of consciousness. He's freezing. He's malnourished. He's dehydrated. Walton is like, absolutely no fucking way, dude. You're staying on the ship. And since Victor is like, I'm so weak or whatever, he goes to Walton, or Walton comes to his bed, which he's stuck in. And he's like, Walton, dude, you have got to kill the creature. Finish what I started. And Walton wants to ask questions. He wants to continue the conversation, but Victor is so weak that he just kind of like keels over. Not dead yet, but he's unconscious. He dies pretty soon after this, though. I think that was like his final huzzah, asking Walton, kill the guy for me. Walton is going about his thing. He's getting the ship out of the ice little by little, and he hears voices in the room where Victor is. So he's like, oh, Victor's back up and talking to him, whatever, because he doesn't know that Victor's died. No, he goes in and the creature is just there. And it's like, oh, you're so gross and ugly, I can't look at you. And the creature is like, I feel so guilty for killing all of these people. He does like a substantially long monologue, which I think I'm gonna have to revisit to like understand completely, because I was near the end of this is like the end scene. It was the middle of the night. It was like 1 a.m. while I was reading this, so I think I wasn't like in it all the way. But there's a long monologue. The creature's like, I feel guilty. He says one thing I understood from this monologue was, he's like, I wanted people to see that I was good past my corrupt and ugly exterior, and now by killing all of these people, I have become just as ugly inside as I am outside. There's no good left in me. He was like corrupted by hatred and revenge, and he's like, I'm gonna go fucking kill myself. By the way, I'm gonna burn myself on a pyre. And that's pretty much the end. I'm assuming Walton made it out because we have this book of his letters to his sister. So what are my final thoughts on Frankenstein? I actually thought it was pretty good. I was expecting it to be a little bit more like Dracula, because they're often like grouped together, but it wasn't, because I didn't really like Dracula. Maybe I wasn't reading it at the right time, but I didn't enjoy Dracula. I really liked Frankenstein. After reading this, I went back and read like the introduction of the book about like the historical context of the whole thing. After she published it with her true name on it, people were like, what? A woman wrote this? Crazy. This is wonderful for a woman. You know, there's that whole sexism thing. I'm not a super literature person. It's funny because I go to school for creative writing, so I have to read a lot of stuff. But I'm not super good at like in-depth literary analysis. It's something that I have to improve at and want to get better at. So I usually latch on to things like motifs, like obvious motifs. So like the thing in this book that I noticed the most was the imagery of fire and ice is most certainly done intentionally. We have ice in the places where the Victor and the creature have conflict, like the scene where he dies, obviously. Like a lot of the times the creature like hides out in the Alps, and so Victor goes up there, it's snowy, it's cold, and they have that conversation for the first time where the creature tells Victor his side of the story. And there's also the feeling of cold when consumed by the desire of revenge. And Victor literally dies from being too cold. Where on the other side, we have fire seen in moments of like hope and forgiveness, passion. It's sort of like life, like the spark of life, the vitality of life. The use of the word ardently, which does in fact mean truly, but it has like a bit of a fire connotation in the original origin of the word. And the creature, when he's like, I've got no good left, I'm gonna go burn myself on a pyre, which is like very opposite to Victor. And we also have the idea of Prometheus, of giving spark, giving fire to humanity. I thought that part was very well done. I think that you could probably write like a pretty hefty essay on the use of fire and ice. Prometheus and fire goes pretty obviously together, but I think that ice being sort of the inverse, and even water as like a state between fire and ice, as like changing and at sometimes being smooth or rough or trying to sink Victor's boat or just being a beautiful lake. Obviously, this is in the romantic movement. So, as you can probably tell by the dates on the sections of this video, it took me a while to film. Originally, it was supposed to be a sort of comparison video between the original Frankenstein and Frankenstein in Baghdad. But after reading Frankenstein in Baghdad, I wasn't sure I had a lot to say about it. I didn't feel like I had the right sort of vocabulary or education to make commentary on the sort of like cultural and political implications that are sort of very deeply woven into that novel. It was a wonderful novel. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend you read it as well. But because the sort of second half of the larger part of this video kind of went away, I didn't film an outro. So that's what this is. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to sort of inspire me to make more, go ahead, leave a comment of videos you think that maybe I could make, or like, subscribe, you know, the whole YouTube thing. Oh god. But yeah, that's the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. Bye bye.